by Saratoga standards, it's not really a real, has been run a long time, but it is a prestigious event. A lot of times the field has been very, very small, and it's been like that for a while. I remember Easy Goer, the year that, he won the Belmont and Whitney in the same season. In that Whitney race, there was only 4 runners in the race. So even back in the day, the Whitney, older horses don't stick around like they used to today. So if you're seeing it back then when Easy Goer was running, then it's going to be more likely you continue to see that now. I do remember a Whitney run, maybe, I think it was the Whitney with, I can't remember the horse off the top of my head, but it was somewhere around 2013 or 2012 to where there were 10 or maybe 11 horses in the Whitney, and that had been the most I've seen in quite some time. So if we can get the older horses to stick around, or the upcoming top allowance horses who put up big numbers in allowance races, or maybe a grade 3 at the track, then we can probably see a Whitney field of about 9 or 10, which will be good, and that would be a pleasant sight to see. The same goes with the Alabama, the $600,000 prestigious Alabama for 3-year-olds. They go 1.25 miles. There's, what other 1.25 mile race for 3-year-old fillies is there in North America? It's a lot of times, it's a grueling race. There's 3-year-old fillies. Most times you're going to get 3 or 4, 5, 6 maybe horses in there, because you're going to always have a standout or 2 in the Alabama, and it's just going to scare other horses away. And, it's like I say, Saratoga is a grueling, deep track. It can sap you dry. And if you're not really, one of the factors or one of the fancied runners, then if you're not trying to get a piece of the purse, it just kind of makes sense to kind of enter and see how it unfolds. Maybe you hope one of the big girls scratch, but if they don't, then you just look for more shallow waters, as to say. So like I say, these prestigious races at Saratoga, unfortunately, sometimes get decimated with scratches or short fields. And if the rain doesn't hit it, that's just another factor. So like I said, Saratoga has a lot of stake races. They have sometimes 3-tiered stake races. They'll have a just like, for instance, like the Adirondack, and then you'll have another feeder race that comes in there, and then you'll have the Spinaway, and same thing with the Sanford and the Amsterdam. So sometimes there's a 3-level tier stake races at Saratoga, and I'm telling you, if weather cooperates, it is a spectacular meet. I remember just maybe in 2017, I want to say it was 2017, that they got the most rain up there that has been recorded maybe since the 80s. It was just rained all the time, and everything was washed off every single day, even the stake races. So, after that, it's kind of been pretty cool. In all the Travers I've been to, and there's been many, I've only gotten 2 sloppy tracks, or maybe even less than fast. I know the race that what I'm trying to think of what race that was. I think it was 2009. I know I bet a horse called Kensai, and I can't remember who won the race off the top of my head. Usually I'm good at that, but I got a lot going on right now since I'm doing all this out the top of my head without many notes or any notes at all. So it's kind of hard to kind of remember. I don't want to stumble over, a sentence I need to say and take 15 or 20 seconds to come up with, the horse or the runner I'm thinking about. So, but I do know that was a sloppy track. And I do have a really quick story about '04, the story or the year that Birdstone won the Travers. Now, I'm quite sure that some of my listeners was at the Travers in 2004 for Birdstone. It was a very unique day. It was a very unique Travers. Now, starting that day, we knew, or it was reported, that at some point during the races that the rain was coming, and oh boy, was it to come. And it was such a, we were so, looking forward to it, with all the everything we do at Saratoga. Birdstone had just won the Belmont. There was a horse in there called the Cliff's Edge. Lionheart was in that race. You can see the race on YouTube. It was, like I said, it's very, very crazy. So as the horses are in the paddock, here comes this Saratoga thunder. Scares me to death. And it just gets dark. So the horses are coming out of the paddock onto the track. And Tom Durkin, he's there. He's like, okay, so he's getting word, it's broadcast by NBC. And he's getting word that the rain is coming, and it's coming some fierce. So the horses are kind of, doing their little warm up, and it's like 8 minutes to post. And like I say, Tom Durkin gets the word probably from, NBC and the cast saying that we need to bring the horses to the gate because it's getting ready to come down. So Tom Durkin makes the announcement, ladies and gentlemen, I know it says 7 minutes to post, but the horses are going to go into the gate because the rain is coming. And so the horses go straight into the gate. The race is won, and it's won by the little Birdstone. And Tom Durkin accidentally tags the race by saying Birdstone wins the 2004 Belmont Stakes. So, and then right after the race, the horses are coming back to be unsaddled, and Birdstone is coming into, the walking ring, and that's when the skies opened up. Everybody ran for cover inside. I have never seen it rain like that in my life. It was pouring. Puddles formed in the blink of an eye. This is not hyperbole. This is actual fact. Everything was flooded. The walkway was flooded. You couldn't walk across that way where now the outdoor paddock is. You couldn't walk in there. It was like a big freaking puddle of water, almost like a small little swimming pool, for lack of a better word. I mean, I've never seen it rain like that. They actually canceled the last race because, as you know, usually after the Travers, they do have one more race. So there's all kind of, particulars about that. You have pick fours, pick fives, pick threes, doubles, and stuff like that. So they have to figure all that out. And it has rained so bad that they canceled the last race, and they told everybody what the consolations would be if you had things rolling and things like that. So, my thing was that I was going to always go, I go to Ciro's a lot of time. Ciro's is a nice little, joint, to, as to say, nice eatery, party little place right off the track along with the horseshoe. So they wouldn't even let anybody in the Ciro's since the race was going to be over. It's just everybody had to wait. Everything over there was flooded. The band at Ciro's had to run for cover. Like I said, I'd never seen nothing like that in my life. So that was my experience about the 2004 on Travers Day when Birdstone won that race. But like I say, Travers Day is so fun. It's gates open at 7:00, which is really, really good. I think Naira does a good job by that because everyone's not coming in at one time. So the races are starting at noon. You don't want to open the gates at 9:00, 9:30, because then you're going to be having 40 or 50,000 people trying to get in a 2-hour span. And, especially with the streets and everything and how it's configured around there, it's just going to be hard. So opening the gates up at 7:00 or 7 a.m. is perfect, So many thousand trickle in here, so many thousand trickle in there. And I'm telling you, by 11 o'clock, an hour before post time, if you're thinking that you're going to drive off the 87 and get into some traffic and whatnot, you're not. You can usually just drive right on up to park, if, going to the free parking or the area where the parking is not full, and you won't have any problem parking. You just walk on in, like you're the first one in the track. So that's a good thing about that on Travers Day. Bring your food, bring your drinks, no glass, have a good time, do your handicapping early. And that is really the folklore of Saratoga on Travers Day. So I want to talk about riders now. I want to talk about how different even though the jockey colony is the same at Saratoga than it is at Belmont, it's the same. But you do add a couple of other elements, and, as you know, at Saratoga, there's usually, on Saturdays, there's usually 10, maybe sometime 11 races. Same with Sunday. So, but, for the most part, you know, the riders here, and we know the usual suspects that they're going to, the races are going to be carved up by the majority are going to be carved up by who we know, right? The Irad Ortiz, the Jose Ortiz, the Joe Rosarios, the Luis Saez, the Javiers, those are pretty much the five that's going to pretty much take up everything. Johnny V does not ride that many races anymore like he used to even 5 or 6 years ago. He's not even riding for Pletcher pretty much all the time, even first call. Luis Saez is riding for Pletcher a lot. You're getting a lot of Irad. He's riding for Pletcher sometimes. So, Johnny is not going to be there. Last meet in 2020, Johnny had 16 victories out of 121 mounts. 13% for Johnny V. Even, he's had a big summer or a big year already this season. But, Johnny, is the all-time leading rider at Saratoga. So 13% with only 16 wins is not Johnny V like. And you can expect more of the same from him this meet. Like I say, he will ride a lot of Pletcher's. He will ride first call for Pletcher for a lot of his 2-year-olds. But then again, he won't ride a lot of other horses for Todd. So I expect somewhere between, that maybe 14 to 18 wins for Johnny V. Now, I'm not saying one of them won't be the Travers or the Whitney or some other big race, but just in total wins, Johnny V is not the Johnny V, 04, 05, 06. So I'm not going to expect that, but, we know, we know what it's come to now. He's picking his spots, and there's a lot of, young up and coming riders or riders that are much younger than he is that are going to ride 7, 8, sometimes 9 or 10 a day. Irad Ortiz, perennial leading rider on the New York circuit, along with his brother, Jose. He's going to take the first call for Chad Brown. He's going to, ride pretty much what he wants to. The difference between Irad and Chad, not Chad, but Irad and Jose is Irad is known as a better turf rider. And I use that word known. I actually think they're a wash as far as talent. I think Irad gets more better horses. I don't see Irad as a better rider than Jose. Like I say, I think they're 1 and 1A in America. I don't think that, Irad is any better. If you give me one horse or you pick out 2 horses and you can have Irad on one and you give me a Jose on the other, I'll take him and feel very, very confident. And Jose rides for, a wide variety of trainers. He had 57 wins last meet. He tied with his brother. So he rides really well at Saratoga. And it's very, very, he's a very, very underrated grass rider because, as you know, Saratoga has an abundance of turf races. And for him to win as many races as he does at Saratoga year in and year out, he has to be a very, very capable grass rider, which he is. Joel Rosario, he finished 3rd in the standings last year with 47 wins out of 245 mounts. He's obviously going to take first call on the grass for Clemont. Clemont's going to have a lot of imports coming over like he usually does. He usually gets those horses to those inputs, what I want to say, the horses from overseas to start at Belmont once or twice, so that way they're acclimated to this country, and then all of a sudden he brings them to Saratoga with one race under their belt, and that's how they perform well. If you remember last year, I think Clemont and Rosario got on some kind of roll to where at one point they won maybe 8 out of 9 races they teamed up together. So it was a really amazing thing to see, and I think Clemont will do the same thing. He rivals Chad Brown with his turf horses. Chad's going to have more, but if Clemont and Chad are in the same race, you got to look at Clemont as his horse having equal opportunities, especially with Joel on him. I want to talk about Luis Saez. I never forget a few years ago when they had, now this is when I say a few years ago, this was maybe 5 years ago when the Ortiz brothers were like, 22, 23, and Luis was like 22 himself. And they had,